Hi there. Today we're going to talk a little bit about time. And when we talk about time, we know that there are two different kinds of clocks. There's a digital clock. This is the kind of clock you might have in your room for your alarm clock, or this is the kind of clock you might see on your microwave at home or on your stove. And it's got a square. It's got two dots in the middle. And this side will have a number on it, and any number on this side over here is telling you the hour, and any side on this number, or any number on this side over here, is telling you the minutes. Okay? The two dots in the middle are the freeze point between hours and minutes. When we count money and we change how we're counting, we say freeze to help us notice that. When we are talking about time, you can do the same thing. So if we put some numbers in here, we could have a 3 over here and a 22 over here. And so this number would be telling us the hour, 3 o'clock, freeze, because there's two dots there. And now we know on this side we're talking about minutes, 22 minutes. So we would read this digital clock to say 3:22, okay? 3 hours and 22 minutes. That would be the time. Now, the same thing is true. Well, one question I have about this time is, can you tell when you read this time if we're talking about 3:22 in the morning or in the afternoon? When you look at a digital clock, it does not tell you if you're talking about morning or afternoon. Okay? You have to know and pay attention to what's happening in a story, or other information the story gives you to figure out if it's morning or afternoon. Let's take a look at this other kind of clock. This kind of clock is called an analog clock. Analog, okay? An analog clock we know is a circle with a dot in the middle. We know that when we look at the clock, we can see the whole circle. We know that there are numbers along the clock. The number at the top is 12. Number at the bottom is 6. 3 is over here. 9 is over here, okay? That shows us the clock divided into chunks, okay? This chunk of the clock, this is a chunk of the clock, this is a chunk of the clock, and this is a chunk. Can you see the equal chunks of the clock? So if we took that circle and we divided it into 1, 2, 3, 4 equal chunks, then we divided it into quarters, okay? That's how I knew to put my numbers where they go. Okay, I'm going to take the lines out, and even when the lines are not there, you can see that when I only have these numbers listed on my clock is still kind of divided into chunks. I'm going to put a dot in the center of my circle, and I'm going to add my other numbers. I know that 12 is the end number for the end of an hour, okay? It also means 60 minutes, because 60 minutes is the total number of minutes in 1 hour. So if this is the end, I'm going to move this way to show the beginning of a new hour. And you can see the numbers get bigger. They start at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, okay? Now I've got all the digits on my clock, and I know that the numbers on the clock, they start here at the top, and they go this way. See how my arrows are showing you which way it goes? Time on a clock goes this way. It goes in the order that makes the numbers get bigger. When it goes all the way around, then we know that's 1 full hour. And we know that each chunk between this number and this number, right here, is a chunk of minutes on a clock. And then between 1 and 2 is another chunk of minutes in the clock. Between 2 and 3 is another chunk of minutes. We know that there's 5 minutes between each of those chunks. So this is the analog clock. Now, we don't know if we're talking about AM or PM. AM means morning. PM means afternoon, night. Okay? So the way the system of time works, let's see if I can draw this for you. Our time starts at 12 o'clock. Okay? If we started our time at 12 o'clock p.m., the time changes. The next hour would be 1 o'clock a.m. The next hour would be 2 o'clock a.m. And it would keep going until it got to a 12 again. So if we're starting at 12 o'clock p.m., we're talking about midnight. Any time that is after midnight turns into morning time. So we'd have 12:01, 12:02, 12:03, all the minutes until we got to 1, the new hour, 1 o'clock a.m. We could keep going. We'd have 2 o'clock a.m., 3 o'clock. Let's take some of these off so we have more room. 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and now we're at another 12. We're at 12 o'clock. Now this 12 o'clock is different from this 12 o'clock. This one started at night. It was started at midnight. We did, and at the very next minute after midnight changes to morning time. So this is all morning, 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 morning. This is when you're sleeping at 1 a.m., sleeping at 2 a.m., sleeping at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. You're probably starting to get up and go to school, right? Oops, sorry about that. At 8 a.m. you're at school. That's about when school starts. 9 o'clock you're in school with your teachers. 10, 11, 12. 12 o'clock, the next 12 is when the time changes back to p.m. So the next time it would change to p.m. would be 12:01. So now we're at p.m. again. Then we'd have 12:02, 03, and keep going until we got to 1 o'clock, the new hour, 1 o'clock p.m. Now we're in the afternoon. And it would keep going p.m. in the afternoon all the way until it got to a 12 again. When it got to a 12 again, we'd be right back where we were before, but on a new day, at midnight, okay? So the way time works is in 12-hour chunks, okay? We have a 12-hour chunk of morning time. We have a 12-hour chunk of afternoon night time. And when you have those two 12-hour chunks together, 12 plus 12 equals 24. That's how many hours there are in one whole day. And I say day, but really I'm including the night hours too. In one full day from the morning until the next day's morning, 24 hours have passed. 12 of those hours will be morning hours. 12 of those hours will be afternoon or night hours. So our days are measured, our time for a day is measured in 12-hour chunks. And a full day has 2 of those 12-hour chunks, which would be 24 hours, okay? So the time cycle keeps going. So if you're talking about AM, you're talking about the morning hours. If you're talking about PM, you're talking about the afternoon or night hours, okay? An analog or digital clock does not tell us AM or PM, and neither does an analog clock. You can have the time like this, and we can read that time to be 1:30, but we don't know if it's AM or PM. The only way we know when we're talking about math for 2nd grade is when it's in a story problem or when it gives us more information, okay? If I was doing a time problem that talked about 1:30 and it said Susie had lunch, and then at 1:30 she took a nap, we could figure out that if she had lunch and then, that means the next thing she did after lunch at 1:30 was take a nap, then we know that the 1:30 they're talking about is the 1:30 p.m., the one that happens in the afternoon, after lunch. If it said that Susie stayed up late for her sleepover party until 1:30 a.m., we know that the sleepover party starts at night. If she stayed up super late at night, she'd be crossing over into the new morning hours, and we should be talking about 1:30 a.m., okay? We know that at 3:22, there's a 3:22 a.m., which is the middle of the night when everybody's usually sleeping. There's also a 3:22 p.m., which is the afternoon. That's right about when school gets out, 3:22, okay? So there are 2 times of the day that match each of the number times we can find on a digital or an analog clock.